This is the part where I list all my good afternoons and say most especially the matrics of 2021. But I am going to do that because it's a recognition and an acknowledgement that I find so valuable. So good afternoon, Mrs. Hock and members of council, Mr. West and our lovely staff, our wonderful parents, prefects of 2022, Mr. and Mrs. Byrne, and the soon-to-be old Johannians, most especially the matrics of 2021. I remember confiding in Mr. Emmett in the first few days of my leadership, feeling anxious, apprehensive towards the task ahead, and in true Mr. Emmett style, he had a way of reassuring me and calming me. As I walked out of his office, his classroom rather, the last thing he said to me was, "Take walks." So I will try today to take you on one of those walks. In order to do justice to this experience, I must take it back to the very beginning. I first arrived at St. John's in 2015 in Lower 3 from a much smaller, less known school in Kempton Park. I'd heard about the kinds of things that went on at all boys schools, and so when I heard that the pre-prep was in the same facilities as the gym, I had very big questions for my parents. I obliged, and on our first day entered through the gate located along St. Patrick Road in the corner of Burgerfield. I kept my head down so as to not attract attention from the bodybuilding 6-year-olds until I looked up and I paused. For a short-lived moment, I held my breath at the sight of those buildings. Mr. West, buildings do speak. What they seemed to say to me was, anything can happen now that you are at this school. You can rise to the top of that bell tower. Looking back at that day, it was one of 2 days in my life that I have been face to face with something that has truly left me in awe. That is one reason why this place will always have a hold on me, but it only scratches at the surface. What is it about St. John's? Father Philip Spite, member of the Community of the Resurrection and writer of the Epilogue of Venture of Faith, asks, what is it about St. John's that pulls at the heartstrings of those of us who have been a part of it? Isn't it that we felt that we were members not merely of a school, an institution, but of a closely knit and very lively family, a family that stood for something much greater than just academic learning and sport, a family for whose welfare and good name we were all concerned, and of which, in the best sense of the word, we were immensely proud. If that 2015 version of me had walked around Burgerfield and up to the Owen Kamana terraces, and in that process jumped 3 years into the future, he would have been facing the opposite direction, posing for St. John's 2018 decennial photograph, along with every single member of our community. And in that moment, he would identify precisely what Father Spite did, a closely knit and very lively family, a family that should include Jake Visser, Mr. Simpson, and those parents we have lost due to COVID. He would have felt the feeling of being part of a community that was much bigger than me, but that nonetheless valued and included me. Now, of course, the St. John's that Father Spite is describing here is a completely different universe to the St. John's that we are here in today. Yet it is the same feeling of something bigger, something more than a school. That is the through line. 123 years united through one idea. We are a great school. We are the college because we have at our core certain values, a way of doing things that has found different expressions over the years, but that has kept the same passionate intensity. If 2018 me had walked up to Long Walk, turned left, traveled towards the prep, and at the same time 3 years forward, he would find himself at the opening of the new prep building in a chair-marked council. He would think to himself, that's quite fancy. But next, he would look up again at a building that would leave him in awe, a building so vastly different from those of Sir Herbert Baker, gleaming with a modern vitality, and again be left in awe. And my being overcome by the same sense of awe in the face of these two buildings is, I think, symbolic of a much bigger idea. And it is here where I think the mark of our leadership as a year and as a prefect body will be left. That in all that we have done, we have managed to hold in balance a sense of the rich tradition of our past and the need to make progressive strides towards an inclusive and transformed school. We know that our history will always be embedded in our DNA, much in the same way that we know that there will always be work to be done in making sure that all of those who form part of this school form part of that closely knit and very lively family. We must continue to treasure both of these imperatives simultaneously. I trust Mlibo Mlonzi and the 2022 prefect body to do this, and I wish them all of the best. That 2 weeks ago version of me would have traveled in this direction, walking through the quadrangles, and in the process past many faces, and be left to reflect on his time drawing to a close. Upper fives, I tell you that we can be incredibly proud of the school that we are leaving behind and all that we have done to make it as it is today. We have led our school to develop many crucial policies, including but not limited to how to regulate a grade group. 19 months without some of the core elements of what we do, and yet still, we screamed our hearts out on those stands. The storm tried to rain on our parade, but we brought the water instead. We have found reason to rejoice, rejoice. If you had told me this time last year that we would have established the first 3 student affinity groups in the 123-year history of St. John's College for Black, LGBTQ+, and female-identifying students, had the school's first majority people of color prefect body, and that we would have forever strengthened the trust between students and both the council and the executive, carried out drives in support of refugee girls and endangered wildlife, left behind a community engagement committee and an environmental committee, achieved more academic certificates than I can remember Reform achieving, I would have told you that you'd set your sights far too high for us. If you had told me that this would be merely the tip of the iceberg, I would have called you insane. But we have done all of that and more. As iron sharpens iron, so have we sharpened each other, and you have sharpened me. Give a hand for yourselves. I could go on at length about how significant it is that the council and the students came together of their own volition to hear each other, or even about how much stronger we have left the student voice here at St. John's. But these things will live on in written policy. They will exist in the form of vital structures. They will live on as enduring precedents. Matrix, you leave a legacy much bigger than yourselves. That same me would, an hour ago, have sat on this chair, and 2 hours ago have started speaking. And now here I am, up on this podium, speaking to you for the last time. For me to be up here is not something that I take for granted. Especially for my parents, to be here listening to me is not something I take for granted. Because while I started this story in 2015, the truth is it stretches back much further. My dad has often told me how his parents never actually saw where he went to school. He decided he wanted a better education, and so he left home with his marks and a dream in his hand. My mom is quick to laugh at me when I complain about struggling to work in lockdown in the darkness, because that is how she got her education, studying in the AMs of every morning, in pursuit of her own dream. Being a part of that dream is my life's greatest mission. I am who I am because of the two of you. You guys are my inspiration, and I hope I can make you proud. It takes a village to raise a child, and I am indebted to so many people. Mr. West, working with you has been one of the biggest privileges of my life. So many more students call the college a home through your courage, and I appreciate all that you have done, and it comforts me to know that I leave behind a school that has you leading it. The same goes for you, Mrs. Hawk, and I will miss you as well. To work with you firsthand is to see the love that you have for the school shine through and to be inspired by it. Mr. Magubane, together we have advanced this project of institutional transformation in unimaginable ways this year. Thank you for your passion, and long may it grow. To Mr. Haysama, the exec team, and our incredible staff, that old saying proves true. Their achievements are built into the lives of other men. A million thank yous. And to my prefect body, St. John's College could not have asked for a more diverse yet complete group of 14 to lead it. Alex Sitman, the ship would have got lost in the winds a long time ago if you hadn't been steering it with me. Thank you for everything, and the pleasure's been entirely mine. Khosi, you're a born leader, and we know that your term as SAC is the start of a much bigger story. Adam Gear, so many Johannians will bear the fruit of your work this year. Any congratulations to Sazi Bongwe must go to you as well. Heads of houses, each of you have left your blazer in a better place than you found it. I have been asked many, many times what I will go on to do from here. For starters, I'll step off this podium and return to my seat. Later on, I will close my eyes as I sing that line from Blue 36. And whether our tomorrows be filled with good or ill, we will triumph through our sorrows and rise to bless you still. I will grab my chest firmly as we sing the school hymn for one last time. And when all of that is over, before we matriculate finally with our exams, I'll take a walk, finding myself again at the bottom of Burger Field, looking up. And I will look up at those buildings and just breathe them in. I will think of that one T.S. Eliot line, "We shall not cease from exploration." And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. And so, knowing the place for the first time, what is it about St. John's? For once in my life, I admitted not having the words. St. John's is St. John's because of all of you. So matrix, let's go out and live it. Serving you as head of school has been the biggest honor of my life. And all I have to say is thank you, thank you, thank you.